Assalamualaikum. Today I am going to represent my group explaining question 4 from set B assignment 2. The question is, in a computer game played by a single player, the player has to find within a fixed time the path through a maze shown on the computer screen. The first occasion that a particular player plays the game, the computer shows a simple maze, and the probability that the player succeeds in finding the path in the time allowed is 3/4. On subsequent occasions, the maze shown depends on the result of the previous game. If the player succeeded on the previous occasion, the maze is harder. The probability that the player succeeds is 1/2 of the probability of success on the previous occasion. If the player failed on the previous occasion, a simple maze is shown, and the probability of the player succeeding is again 3/4. The player plays 3 games. The question 4a requires us to construct a tree diagram and hence show that the probability that the player succeeds in all 3 games is 27/512. Assume that W equal to player succeeded and W prime is equal to player lose. First, before we build the tree diagram, we must first analyze the question. The question says that the first game, the player probability to succeed is 3/4, which means the probability player lose is 1/4. The question also mentioned that if player succeed in the first game, the next game will get harder, and the probability of player to succeed the second game is 1/2 of the first game. From this information, we can now build the tree diagram. Then, after we already construct the tree diagram, the question also requires us to show that the probability player succeed in all 3 games is 27/512. To get this value, we need to multiply 3/4 times by 3/8 times by 3/16, which is represent the probability of players succeed in each game. Then we get the value 27/512. The answer is shown. Then the question 4b requires us to find the probability players succeeded exactly 1 times in one of the 3 games. Let A as the player succeeded exactly 1 of the 3 games. To do this, we need to multiply the probability player succeeded in first game times by the probability player succeed in the second game times by the probability player succeed in the third game. Then we will get the answer, which is 9/32. For question 4C, the question requires us to find probability the player does not have 2 consecutive success. First, let B as player does not have 2 consecutive success. 2 consecutive success is when the player wins 2 games in a row. So, we must find the probability player does not have consecutive success. As you can see here, this is the probability where player does not have 2 consecutive success, which is the sum of the probability player lose in the second game, player lose in the second and the third game, the probability player lose in the first and the third game, the probability player lose in the first and the second game, and the probability player lose in all of the games. And the answer is, after we sum up of all the probability, we get the answer 83 over 128.
For question D, first thing first, we let D be event of player has exactly 2 success. And then we let C be event of player has 2 consecutive success. First step, we must find the probability for C. And we got the answer 45 over 128. Second step, we must find the probability for D. And we got the answer is 333 over 512. Okay, third step, we must find the probability for C intercept with D. And we got the answer is 153 over 512. And last step, P of C given D can be interpreted as P probability of C intercept with D divided by probability of D. And we got the answer, which is 17 over 37.